Did King James unalive his mother? Did he do that? What did he have to do with his mother's? Her head got chopped. Her head got chopped. And what was the story religiously, politically, leading up to the execution of King James' mother? What happened? And what did he do about it? And what does this have to do with us today? And what are the religious implications of it? And what does this have to do with the King James Version of the Bible? Oh, let's get into it. Let's get into it. I am Reverend Valerie Love, author of 26 books on practical spirituality, Christian witchcraft, magic, and the occult. And you are on the show, The Real God is Not in the Bible. We do this every witchy Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And tonight, in this episode, we're going to go deep into King James. And we went into King James before. Hey, Rary Day, how you loving? How you loving? We went into King James before, and the last time we went into King James, we were talking about why the King James Version of the Bible is a bad Bible. It's just a bad Bible, right? It's just a bad Bible. And we talked about why. And we talked about why did King James commission the Bible to be created in the first place? Or not created. Why did he commission the King James Version of the Bible? Right? Why did he do that? Oh, yeah. I have a new look tonight. Queen Victoria, Queen V. Hey, how you loving? So since that conversation with King James, there have been a lot of questions in the comments that were asking me three things. One was, I heard King James killed his mother. And I was like, let me find out. And another question that I heard was, I heard King James was gay. I can't answer to that one because I don't know. I don't know his sexual persuasion, but I'm sure there was plenty of gay people then, just like we have plenty of gay people with us now. So it's all good, right? I don't know the answer to that one. I just know that he had Queen Anne of Denmark supposedly as his love and his wife and whatnot. Yeah, we don't really know, right? We don't know what people were tipping around doing. He could have been having a good time with a lot of different people. And the third one that people ask is, was King James black? And I don't really know where that one came from. I can't give you an answer to that. He doesn't look black to me. Nothing about his heritage looks like he was black. So I don't know where that comes from. So I'm going to say no on that one. I'm going to answer that one. No. Let's get into it. We are going to, this story I'm about to tell you, family. This is a story of political intrigue, assassination plots, Catholics against Protestants, civil war, beheadings, heirs to the throne that were offed and other people. It is, this story is so full of intrigue. Oh, welcome. Oh, you love the hair today? Thank you. Yeah, I bought her the other day. This story is so full of intrigue, it'll leave your jaw dropping. So, this episode of The Real God is Not in the Bible is sponsored by the book, The Real God is Not in the Bible. I'll tell you more about that as we get into the show. So, let's go. Let's go on screen share because we've got a lot to talk about. Come through, wicked nails. Come on, you see my new wicked nails? Wait a minute, let me come on screen share for a second. So you peeped it because this weekend at the Christian Witches Convention, I was trying to sneak up on y'all, but I see Goddess already peeped me because Goddess, is this the same Goddess that's going to be with us in the mansion this weekend? I'm just making sure. This weekend is at the Christian Witches Convention. Every Saturday night, the party is themed. And the theme for this year's party is Wicked, the movie, the play. And so, yes, I'm ready. I'm ready for Team green or team pink? Which one? Ah, let's go on screen share. Oh, Shakespeare and King James were in a relationship. That's fascinating. Look, that sounds almost as salacious as this Diddy trial. You know, we're going to have to talk about this Diddy trial, right? But right now, we're talking about King James. We're not talking about Diddy right now. We're talking about King James. All right. So we're going to go on screen share and we're going to, let me close this. First, I want to let you know that in the book, I am still perfecting this chapter in the book. The real God is not in the Bible. I am still perfecting this chapter on King James. Now, why are we even talking about King James? Where President Ronald Reagan said it really interestingly. He said, for more than 3.5 centuries, he's talking about the King James Version of the Bible, its language and its images have penetrated more deeply into the general culture of the English speaking world and have been more dearly treasured than anything else ever put on paper. Wow, President Ronald Reagan, God bless your soul. He's in the realm of the ancestors. This is what he said about the King James Version Bible. The King James Version Bible has had a tremendous impact on the English speaking world. That's why we're even talking about King James. If the King James Version of the Bible did not have the monumental influence that it has had on all of us, I wouldn't be talking about King James. He has nothing to do with my life. He has nothing to do probably with anybody's life here. Except behind the scenes, because he commissioned something and spread it out to the masses and made it that you must use this book, not only in England, also in the English colonies in America. We inherited the King James Version of the Bible, and the King James Version of the Bible, people thought that was the standard. They thought this is the Bible. Now that's false. It's actually a bad version of the Bible. Yet many people to this day, I'm sure somebody's grandmother is probably holding a King James Version Bible on her lap right now. I'm sure that somebody's grandmother is taking the King James Version Bible to church this Sunday. This book has had extreme influence on people. When I say extreme, I mean extreme influence on people. Extreme. So how did it come to be? Where did this man come from? What's up with this man? And did he really unalive his mother? That's what we're going to talk about. Okay? That's what we're going to talk about. And what is the purpose of this series? Oneness and peace. That is my purpose in talking about these things. It is not to denigrate or deny anyone their religion. I love the Bible. I just know the Bible's not from God. Whatever you do in your spiritual life, it's beautiful. Do it. And if it works for you, beautiful. Work it. The purpose of this series is so that we go into humanity's true origins and divine nature. Do we understand that things have been hidden for us for thousands of years that we are uncovering? And to provide conclusive evidence that the Bible is not from God, it's not inspired by God, it's not written by God, it's not about God, it's not from God. No, it's not. That means you're free from the yoke of the Bible, and so is everyone. You are under no compulsion to follow the Bible. What's a Christian witch? We get this question a lot too. It's a person who understands and knows that there's no distinction between miracles and magic, or Christianity and the pagan and occult practices of the world in which it was born, and who seeks to honor Christ or aspects of Christianity and their practice of witchcraft. It's very simple. We understand that energy is everywhere and everything is energy, and that there's really no difference between a prayer and a spell. There's really no difference between raising the energy in church and raising the energy in the coven. There's really no difference between a grimoire and the Bible spell book. See, we came to understand that. We came to understand that there really is no distinction between these things. It's a false divide. And therefore, we honor it in our practice. We honor the inherent magic, mysticism, the craft in the Bible and the Christ walk. Did King James get rid of his mother? Okay, let's talk about it. So we got to set the stage. This story is so intriguing, I promise you. So what happened? Okay, so King James, he was born in 1567, and when he was born. Something very interesting happened when he was born. There was a lot going on when he was born. So he was already coming into a very tumultuous time. So think about that. Think about when you're born and you come into a very tumultuous world. We're talking about King James and his mother. Okay. Now, he became later King of Scotland as James the Sixth, but he became King of England and Ireland as James the First. Now, his mother. Who was his mother? His mother was Mary, Queen of Scots. Now, this is a very storied figure in history, an incredible woman. I find her to be one of the most intriguing women ever. Okay, so Mary, Queen of Scots, had she had quite the story. But I'm gonna unpack the whole story of his mother and what happened. Right. Well, she became her father died when she was little, right? So she became queen at a very early age, like 6 months. Okay. Now, King James became king of Scotland when he was 13 months old. So his mother became queen at 6 months old. He became king at 13 months old. Why? What happened? Well, they forced his mother to abdicate the throne, and I'll tell you how. Now, he ascended to the English throne in 1603 after the death of Queen Elizabeth I, and therefore uniting England and Scotland under one monarch, but they still had separate parliaments. And I think Scotland, every so often, they move to completely break away from England, but it hasn't happened yet. Now, Mary became Queen of Scotland as a baby when she was 6 months old because her father died, which was James the Fifth. Okay. Now, she was betrothed to the Dauphin. Who's the Dauphin? That's the French heir. So she's over there in Scotland. Her father died. He was the king. She's the heir to the throne. And she's only 6 months old. Well, you can't rule a whole kingdom at 6 months old. So you have to be groomed and you have to be trained and you have to speak all these languages, right? At that time, it would have been French and Scottish and English and Latin. She spoke all those languages. They taught her all those languages. So when you're very young, of course, they betroth you so that they can make their alliances that will help them militarily and advance each person's kingdom and set up sort of like a Game of Thrones, exactly like Game of Thrones. You know, you got to make your alliances in this chess match. Well, Scotland made an alliance with France. So Scotland and France were going to be united because they were going to give the Queen Mary, the Queen apparent, the Queen heir, to the Dauphin, and the Dauphin was going to be the French heir in France. So when she got betrothed, they shipped her off to France. They shipped her off to France to be raised. Now, think about that. She was not raised in her native Scotland. This is very important. 6 months old, she becomes the queen. Father is dead. Okay, they ship her off. They after a little while, she's taken care of in her own kingdom. But eventually, they ship her off because she's going to be marrying this French heir, and they want her to learn all of the French protocols, and they want her to learn and understand French, English, Italian, Spanish, all these different languages, Latin, all of these things, and to be raised as a proper queen court person. Okay, so she's in France. Well, she gets married to him. She gets married to Francis II, when she was 15 and he was 14, because that's how they used to do it back then. Don't say anything to me about, oh, that's horrible, that's disgusting. Minors, I know, I'm just the messenger. Because I can already hear somebody in the comments. How are you talking about somebody getting married at 15 and 14? I didn't make this up. I'm just telling you what happened. I didn't make up any of this. This is in history books. This is the history that we received. This is quote unquote the official records. Okay. So she's in France. By the time she's 15 and he's 14, they get married. Well, not long after they get married, his father dies. Because these people, they didn't live very long. They were dying in childhood. They were dying when they were teenagers. They were dying all over the place because they didn't understand. Medieval times, they were very dirty, very filthy. I won't say all these people were dirty and filthy, didn't wash their hands. The doctors were putting leeches on them, bleeding them. This is very, it was a dangerous time to be alive. Pestilence, plagues, all kinds of stuff across Europe. You people didn't live very long. They didn't live very long during this medieval period, right? Well, sure enough, a year later, something like a year later, her new husband, they're only 15, 14. So about a year later, around 15, 16, the father dies. Her father-in-law, the her husband's father, he dies. Now I'm telling you this story for a reason. I promise you, it's all going to come together with a pretty bow. Well, the father dies. So what happens when the father dies? Well, her husband now becomes the king, and she becomes the queen of Scotland and France. Okay, but she's really kind of queen in name of Scotland because she hasn't ruled Scotland. She hasn't even been to Scotland in years. Now, her husband dies 2 years later. Oh, good Lord, this boy, he dies. She's only like 16, 17 years, maybe 17, 18 years old now, and he's dead. Okay, I think he has some kind of ear infection or something like that because people were dying of all different kinds of things. So after he dies, of course, she's not going to become Queen of France because she's really from Scotland. So she goes back to Scotland. Okay, she returns to her home. Then she gets married. Now, here's where King James is going to be born. So let's come off screen share for a moment and let's talk about this because I want us to understand something. Do you already see? Hey, how you loving? How you loving? Do you already see that there's a lot of political drama and intrigue in this whole scenario? This is what he was born into. He's born into political plots, intrigue, uh, civil wars. This was the state at the time he was born. Now, here's another thing to add to it. During this same time, remember the Catholics and the Protestants fighting. They at each other. They at each other. They at each other. Religion, once again, is a big problem. So, what is happening? Well, religion is causing a great divide in England. And why? Well, I think y'all remember me telling you the story of King Henry VIII before, right? The one who had 6 wives and 3 of them got their heads chopped. Yeah, he killed 3 of his wives, I'm pretty sure. He had 6 wives. He had 3 children. Well, that was the king. He was the king before, um, let me go back a little bit. Before King James was the king of England and Ireland, was Queen Elizabeth I. She ruled for 45, 44 years, 44 or 45 years. Before her was her sister, Bloody Mary. Before her was King Edward, but he died when he was like 15, 16, something like that. He was very young when he died. And before that was King Henry VIII, right? So you had King Henry VIII, which is, he's famous for having the 6 wives and chopping the heads of a couple of them. 2 to 3 of his wives, he chopped the heads. Why? He found out that someone was cheating on him. Trumped up charges, really. They say that one of his, Thomas Cromwell, one of King Henry VIII's trusted advisors, plotted to kill Anne Boleyn, the first one of King Henry's wives that got her head chopped. Okay? So, and remember, during these days, if someone accused you of something, it was probably going to be your head chopped. And if the church accused you of something, you're probably going to be burned at the stake. Yeah, it's very little due process happening. Now, they had courts and they had lawyers and they had the law. Yet, if someone made up a case about you and it sounded like treason, you were probably going to get your head chopped. And it probably wasn't going to be a whole lot of questions. And you could stand there and try to defend yourself. It probably wasn't going to work, right? Because it, these monarchs, absolutely power hungry, absolutely obsessed and paranoid, and absolutely ready to chop heads of anyone that threatens them. Okay, that's what you're dealing with. Now, King Henry VIII, he had three children, right? He had six wives. These six wives, he had three children. Well, he only had one son, King Edward, and he had two daughters, his daughter Mary and his daughter Elizabeth. Now, Elizabeth is the one that everyone knows, everyone loves. Queen Elizabeth I, she had the magician, John Dee, the occultist, working for her. Do you remember? She had spies. And do you remember that John Dee helped her expand her empire? This woman brought more wealth to England during those 40 something years. And they say it was like prosperity. The Elizabethan era is like lauded for just prosperity and all the wealth she was bringing in and all of the, and this woman was shrewd. Queen Elizabeth I, shrewd. This woman was smart. This woman was smart when she was little. She was smart. She was paying attention to things. This woman was a shrewd negotiator. This woman negotiated with do y'all remember, oh, what is her name? The one who was she was the leader of Scottish rebels. And what is her name? I'll think of her name in a moment. Let me bring her name up. Her and Queen Elizabeth worked it out and they stopped all of that squabbling back and forth because Queen Elizabeth, I think she realized and knew that if everybody was warring, it was going to be hard to get people into prosperity, right? And peace and prosperity. And so she had a long reign. This woman, 40 something years of prosperity and peace. What was this lady's name? The woman leader of Scottish rebels. What's her name? Let me see. It started with a B. It started with a B. Let me see if I can find her name. Famous Scottish warrior woman. Oh, she was like let's see, who met Queen Elizabeth. She met Queen Elizabeth, Scottish woman, rebel leader who met Queen Elizabeth. There it is. Who met Queen Elizabeth. Let me get her name right now. It starts with a B. Let's see. Why are they not showing me her name? They keep talking about Mary Queen of Scots, but that's not the one I'm talking about. Anyway, let me know in the chat if y'all know who I'm talking about, okay? The King James Version is a bad version of the Bible because it does not use the oldest Bibles that we have. There are four oldest Bibles that we have. Codex Vaticanus, which is in the Vatican, Codex Alexandrinus, which I laid my peepers on when I went to the British Museum. Codex Sinaiticus, which is a very old version of the Bible, and Codex Ephraemi Rescriptus. Those are the four oldest Bibles in the world. And they didn't use any of those. Why? They didn't have them. One was in the Vatican. They couldn't get it. Because a part of this story I'm going to tell you is that they were Protestant and they had broke away from the Catholic Church. So the Catholic Church wasn't going to give them nothing The Catholic Church certainly wasn't going to let them see this old Bible that they had in. They still have it up there in the Vatican. It's called Codex Vaticanus, right? I thought that was Anne McIntosh. Could be, but there's another one that starts with a B. She was incredible. Her name will come to me. So, because they did not have the four oldest versions of the Bible, they had to work with what they have. And what he used was I covered this in the video that I did on the King James Version of the Bible. But I'm going to link below the exact details of the King James Version Bible and what was used as the source material for the King James Version of the Bible. And I also outlined many of the scriptures that are different, and I also have it in the book. So the Bible, so get the book, and because it's an ebook version, I'm still working on it. Yay, I'm still working on this book. It's an ebook version. And when it goes into hardcover and paperback later this year on 11/11 on Kickstarters, we're going to bring out the paperback and the hardcover when I complete. I'm still writing this book because there's so much to write. The Bible can't be from God if it has all these translations, because that would mean that God is a bad communicator. Discerning spirituality, you nailed it. You nailed it. Is God confused on what God is saying? Then why do we have many different versions of what God is saying? And some of them are actually opposing each other. It's not like, oh, it's just a little different version of it. No, it's saying two different things. Both of them can't be so. So, Boudica, that's it. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. That is it. Boudica. Boudica was a bad A. Boudica was a bad A. She was leading those Scottish rebels, and she said, I'm going to go see the Queen. And it was quite shocking because you don't just get up and go see the Queen. And she got all the way to see the Queen, and she got an audience with the Queen, not knowing if she would even get an audience with the Queen. She went to England, not even knowing if she would get an audience with the Queen. And why? Because they were warring back and forth, right? The Scottish tribes were warring I don't know if it was called Britannia back then, but warring with England. And Queen Elizabeth has sent one of her henchmen there to kind of break down the fight. And the henchmen killed Boudica's sons. And it was on and popping after that. Boudica said, I'm going straight to the top. And sure enough, when she got in there to see Queen Elizabeth, they say she didn't bow because she viewed herself as the supreme ruler of the Scottish rebels. So she didn't, bow to Queen Elizabeth, which was very interesting, you know. Boudica was British. Was she British, or was she we have different versions because it has been translated a bunch of times. Yes, it has absolutely been translated many, many, many times. Yeah, there are different reasons. That's not the only reason that we have different versions. We also have different because people intentionally changed it. That's a shocker. According to their ideals, which is exactly what King James did. He commissioned the Bible according to his ideals, which included being terrified of witches. And nowhere in any original version of the Bible does it have the word witch. The word witch didn't even exist. King James did that. Do you understand that he created a version of the Bible with his own political interests in mind? Let me show you something. I'm going to show you a quote that could help with this. And I want to say something else. The Bible is still being changed. The Bible is a working document. That's why I love the Bible. The Bible is a working document. The Bible still isn't finished being written. They're still working on the Bible. The Bible is not finished being written. The Bible is a working document. It has been worked on and worked on and worked on and massaged and worked on and added to and redacted and translated and worked on for thousands of years. Thousands. And we're still learning more about the Bible, right? Okay, let's go on screen share and let's look at this quote. I have a quote in here about the King James Version of the Bible. And with regard to the political motives of the King James, you're looking at the manuscript, and this manuscript is still being worked on. So that's why it looks this way. Let me find this quote for you, where I am talking about the political motives of King James. I'm going to read it to you. Take a screenshot of that. This is one of the reasons why the King James Version is a bad Bible. Take a screenshot of this, and then I'm going to continue going up. Okay. I want to give you a quote from the political motivations for King James and his commissioning of the Bible. Why did he do it in the first place? Boom. Political motives. It is clear that King James' intentions to employ the Bible in its new translation, the process of the translation, and thus the making of the Bible as a unifying text for the establishment of the authority of state and church, constitutes a remarkable act of politics, not spirituality, not helping the people get closer to God. This is a move of politics. As literacy grew in England and in the English speaking world, the King James Bible would become a tool of language, literature, altogether a major and incisive text of culture in all its dimensions. This book has penetrated culture like you would not believe. In many homes, it was the only book, and U.S. Americans carried it west with them. The same with Canadians and Australians. Its language entrenched itself long ago in the creative writing of the English-speaking world. We cannot underestimate the effect, the influence, the power of the King James Version and how it has shaped the English language, religion, and beliefs for hundreds of years, for centuries. This is the 1600s when it was created. We cannot escape that. It is a remarkable act of politics. Didn't have anything to do with getting people closer to God. It didn't have anything to do with helping people be more holy and righteous. It had to do with solidifying power in his kingdom and getting people to do what he wanted them to do. And if you watched the movie, the movie with Denzel Washington, The Book of Eli, and you remember the man in there who had to get his hands on the book, he said, I need the words, because he knew that if he had the book and he had the words, he would be able to control the people. Let's get back to King James and his mother. So what happened? What happened to her? All right, so she comes back now. She's a widow for the first time. Now, she was widowed like a few times. However, this was the first time she was a widow because her French husband died. Now she's back in Scotland. But remember, the people in Scotland don't really know her. At first, they were like, yay, here comes Queen Mary, Queen of Scots, yay. But after a while, they didn't really like her. Why? Because she was Catholic, and by now, Scotland was Protestant. Okay, so she gets married. She gets married to Lord Darnley. Now, he's an Englishman, and Queen Elizabeth, when she hears about this, she's over in England. When she hears that her cousin, because they are cousins, I'll show you the family tree in a moment. When she hears that her cousin, Queen Mary of Scots, is marrying Lord Darnley, and Lord Darnley is an Englishman, and he has ties to royalty, he's up there hobnobbing with the upper elites. You know how they would have the elites, the noble houses, just like Game of Thrones. I promise you, this whole thing is Game of Thrones. Truth is stranger than fiction. Well, when she married him, people didn't like it because this man, they suspected, this is what Elizabeth suspected, and she suspected correctly, that maybe Mary only married Lord Darnley so she could try to get in on the English throne too, to have England and Scotland. Because these are some conniving people, the men and the women. Don't think the women weren't conniving too. The women were just as conniving as the men. So her and Lord Darnley have a son. That's the one that's going to become King James. Okay. He's going to become King James the Sixth, King James the Sixth of Scotland, and he's going to become King James the First of England. Now, her husband, Lord Darnley, he was a bad apple, jealous. And after she married him, now see, Lord Darnley was her cousin. The plot thickens. It was her cousin. Because back in the day, they were marrying cousins because they had to keep it all in the royal family, right? She married her cousin because he was so handsome and so dashing and so. Well, not long after they get married, it becomes clear that she made a bad choice because this man is unhinged. This man is very jealous, and she has an advisor, right? Because all these political people have their advisors, they have their little privy council, they have the people that tell them the goods, they have a master of whispers, just like Littlefinger in Game of Thrones. I promise you this is just like Game of Thrones. This is where your King James version of the Bible comes from. Does any of this sound like God, or does this sound like power-hungry monarchs grabbing and fighting and squabbling over power? Does any of this sound like God to you? Does it sound like God to me? It sounds like just a bunch of squabbling people, just like we have today. Squabbling people. Okay, well, her husband was her cousin, but it soon became clear that he was very jealous. He was jealous of her secretary, which is David Rizzio. So they came in the house one night and killed the man. They grabbed this man, they rush in while she and him are having some discussion over dinner, because your counselor would be close to you. You'd be having dinner with them and all those kinds of things. Well, they came in and rushed in one night, and they were there having dinner and whatnot. And he jumps up, and Mary's like, no. And they grabbed that man, stabbed him once in front of Mary, then dragged him outside, stabbed him something like 52 times. Oh my goodness. Because the husband was so jealous over this is King James' father. This is King James' father. This is his mother. His mother is sitting there doing her queen thing, married to this man because maybe that can get her, she's playing chess. Maybe that can get her to be Queen of England too. And his father, a conniving, murderous somebody, kills the man. This is King James' father. I don't think anybody went to look into the details of this family. This family is off the rocker. These people are, this would make, I keep telling you, Game of Thrones ain't got nothing on this. Okay, so then what happens after that? After that, Lord Darnley was killed. What? So he killed Mary's advisor. And then later on, Lord Darnley got killed. And they say that he was strangled in the house and that Mary had left just before it happened. So somehow she might have been implicated in the murder. Right? They don't know, because the murder remains unsolved to this day. But 3 months later, she marries somebody else. She marries James Hepburn, Earl of Bothwell. And people lost it because this woman is doing too much. The husband got offed. It's just dissension. The husband was offed, and now The person 3 months later, they say that when the husband got off, she wasn't even sad. You know how like this, they like to see the widows with all the black on walking around so sad and crying and I can't eat. You know, you put on the drama show, whether you like them or not. They said she was out then a few days later playing cricket and doing all the things that she normally does because she loved to ride, she loved to hunt, she loved to do all those things. They said she was doing all those things not long after her husband died. What? She don't look like she's a grieving widow, which would lead one to believe that perhaps she was somehow implicated in this. Okay, so she gets married again. This is the third husband, and you see the two husbands then died already. This woman is a black widow spider. That's what we call. Hold on. I know. I know that this intrigue sounds super crazy, does it? Tell me if this intrigue sounds super crazy. This is what you have. This is King James' father, and this is King James' mother. Conniving, murdering, plotting. These are his parents. just saying. Okay? Look it up. Tell me in the comments, does this sound like Game of Thrones? Does it sound like Game of Thrones? It sounds like Game of Thrones to me. Does this sound like Game of Thrones to y'all? It sounds like Game of Thrones to me. So much patriarchy is the truth. I'm going to tell y'all something why I never believed in the patriarchy. Here's why. Because the women that I look at in history, they were just as conniving and they were just as shrewd and they were just as powerful as the men. They were just doing it a little differently. I never believed in the patriarchy because some of them women, oh, Mary was a badass. She definitely was a badass. Some of these women were doing the most. Some of these women were doing the most. And I have a feeling that some of the men were victims to some of these women. I really do. So if you believe the women were just sitting there being all helpless and powerless because the men ran everything, that's because that's what the men wrote in the books, because that's what they wanted you to believe. It is totally Game of Thrones, isn't it? Okay, let's continue with his father and see what happened with his father. Okay, so his father died. Let's continue the story. Okay, those women were running things, weren't they? Oh my God. Infinite Songbird, love you. Okay, so let's continue with his father and what happened after his father died. Okay, this plot thickens. The story's not even over yet. We're not even halfway through the story. Okay, after his father is killed, now she already had King James. Okay, so King James, he was like about a year old by this time. Okay, well, the father is died. She's, with her son. 3 months later, Mary gets married again. This time she marries Earl of Bothwell. And this man may have been implicated in killing King James' father, right? Okay, let's go further. Well, civil war broke out because the Scots didn't like that. The noble houses didn't like it. She was doing too much. They couldn't control this woman. So this woman and the new earl, her new husband, they raised an army too. So they got the civil war going now because some of the noble houses are breaking out with the earl and Mary, and they got an army. They're going back and forth fighting, right? Well, then in the fight, Mary lost and she was captured and imprisoned. And Earl of Bothwell, he was captured and imprisoned too. He was in prison for 10 years. They kept him in there until he died. Well, Mary was in prison, but see, a lot of people loved Mary. A lot of people were on Mary's side. Why? Because Mary was Catholic. Keep that in mind. Now, while she was in prison, she had a miscarriage. And when she had the miscarriage, it was twins. These were the children. This would have been King James' little siblings. I don't know if they were boys or girls. She had a miscarriage, and people just felt like it was just so terrible for her to be in prison there. And she was pregnant. This woman was pregnant with twins. Then she miscarries the twins. And so they have a plot to get her out, her people, Clearly you can see that there is a group of people that are so loyal to Mary that they love her and they're going to support her no matter what. They're going to fight for her. They're going to always come to her rescue. They're always going to escape her from wherever she is. They're always going to slip her out. They're going to find a way. Like, these people love this woman. You know, there was a group of people that really loved her, and obviously there was a group of people that did not. Well, after that happened, she escapes. She escapes from prison. Her helpers, her people help her escape. And they put her in a little river, and she goes over to England because she's going to try to see if she can get protection from her cousin, who is Queen Elizabeth I. She's Queen of England now. Well, there was only one big problem with this. A big problem: religion. Because Mary, Queen of Scots, was Catholic. Her country, Scotland, was largely Protestant. England, where she was running to try to get protection, was torn, part Catholic and part Protestant. They're going through some stuff over here too. King James, her son, that she had to leave in Scotland, and Queen Elizabeth, where she was fleeing to, both of them are Protestant. Now put the puzzle pieces together. Mary's Catholic. Remember, the Catholics and the Protestants are at each other's necks. England is breaking away because King Henry VIII established the Church of England and broke from the Rome, from papal rule, because the Catholic Church ruled with an iron fist all over Europe, except England. So England had broke away, and they had made King Henry VIII, they made him temporal and spiritual ruler of England, sort of like the Dalai Lama, how he is the temporal and spiritual ruler of Tibet. Same with King Henry VIII. He was the ruler, political ruler, but he was also, they say, the divine ruler. They broke away from the Pope. And because they had broke away from the Pope, it made way for King James to take it upon himself later on when he came after all those different heirs. It made way for him to now do what he did with the Bible. See, each generation keeps pushing the next generation toward the thing that they're going to do. Okay, now, the Catholics in England, now remember, Mary Scots, Mary Queen of Scots, she escapes. She gets away from Scotland. She runs to England. She's going to try to be with her cousin, Queen Elizabeth. Please help me. They're trying to get me. They're trying to imprison me because they wanted her to pay for the murders. Because remember, her husband was murdered, and it was questionable, was she involved? Okay, well, Catholics in England, where she was running to, they would have supported Mary in usurping the throne of Queen Elizabeth because Mary was Catholic. And so the Catholic people wanted the whole country to go back Catholic again. So they would have supported Mary's bid for the throne if Mary went for the throne, so that they could restore England to being Catholic, back to Catholicism again, because they had made a split from Rome and they wanted to go back Catholic again. The Catholic people, but not the Protestant people in England, didn't want that. Okay, well, what happens? Well, when she gets there, when Queen Mary of Scots gets to England, Queen Elizabeth never saw her. She just put her under house arrest. She was like, this lady's dangerous, which was a smart move. Queen Elizabeth knew that Queen Mary was trouble, was danger. And this woman had escaped from everything that anybody had put her in. So, because her followers, her loyal people were going to come and somehow break her out and bust her out. They were going to come for her. So, Queen Elizabeth always put Queen Mary, they put her under house arrest, but they always put her with heavy guards. And she used to move her frequently, because they knew that this woman, her supporters were going to come break her out. The Catholic people were going to go come and grab her and try to maybe move Queen Elizabeth out of the way. This is what Queen Elizabeth was thinking, and she was thinking correctly. Well, Queen Elizabeth knew that there was really not going to be any peace with this woman around. Queen Elizabeth was interested in a peaceful kingdom growing the prosperity, and she had her spies everywhere. This woman got ears and eyes everywhere. So Queen Mary is under house arrest 19 years, but then there is a plot that they now have concrete evidence of a plot. It was called the Babington Plot. In 1586, these letters revealed that Queen Mary gave the okay to an assassination attempt on Queen Elizabeth's life so that she could be throned in Queen of England. These people were cousins. Do you understand that these people have no family love among them? Wait a minute, let's come on screen share for a second. I'm building this story, I'm building this case so that we understand that this ain't a normal family. These people ain't got no love for each other. These people are cousins and they got no love for each other. These people are plotting against their own family members. These people are trying to off each other. It's not just that King James wanted to off his mother. He didn't want to off his mother. He didn't off his mother. Queen Elizabeth offed his mother. But the thing about it is, King James never did anything about it. In all those 19 years, he never raised an army. He never seriously, he might have sent a couple of little letters. He never seriously said, let my mother go. Never did. But remember, the man would have had no connection with his mother because his mother was off when he was left Scotland when he was like 13 months. That's when he became king. He didn't grow up with his mother. He doesn't know this woman. He doesn't know the woman from a can of paint. And none of them really knew their parents, like this loving relationship with their parents, because as soon as they were born, they were scooped off to their caretakers, and their caretakers would take care of them on a daily basis. And maybe you saw your mother every so often. There were all these different castles, and maybe on holiday, you come see your mother for a little while. This is your mother. Oh, hi, mother. And then they do the little bow and the little curtsy and all the proper little things that they teach it. They used to scoop the kids off, take them to some other place where they would teach them English and Scottish and Latin and French and Spanish and Italian, all of the important languages. And Latin, of course, would teach them to read, teach them to dance, do the little dances that you see them do in the medieval times, right? They would teach. Is giving House Lannister. Come on. That is it right there. It's completely House Lannister. And Cersei, we could call Cersei Queen Mary of Scots. That's Cersei right there. Oh my goodness. Can you imagine? Okay, so why would King James have any affinity with his mother? He wouldn't, because he didn't know her. He didn't grow up with her. He doesn't know anything about her other than what they told him. And if he remained in Scotland, which is where she had left him with the caretakers, he was well taken care of course, because he's going to be the king. So they treasure him and take care of him and make sure nobody offs him. And he would have been well taken care of and he would have grown up, but he never would have had a personal relationship with his mother. So what was the love? And already these people don't have love. These people have loyalty to the throne. That's what they have loyalty to. That's what they're raised for. They're raised to be monarchs. They're not raised to be loving people. And Machiavelli, can we talk about Machiavelli, who was also around in 1600s, somewhere around there, 1500s, 1600s? Machiavelli had written his rules of Machiavelli that says it's better to be feared than to be loved. Do you remember Machiavelli? Do you remember that Machiavelli, he was kind of helping these monarchs on how to figure out how they should be? Because he said, well, you could be loved and you could be feared. You could do both. But if you had to pick one, be feared. That's better. Because if you're loved, well, it's not going to get you as far as if you're feared. You'll get more mileage out of being feared than out of being loved. Okay? So are you getting a picture of medieval Scotland, England, all of this, where King James is born. He's soaking in all of this. He's soaking in this battle of the Catholics and the Protestants. He's growing up Protestant. He's understanding that this religious fervor and this religious war, as well as civil war, all of that is part of is shaping his psyche. Your father got killed after killing somebody. Your mother got taken away, imprisoned. Then her head got chopped. I mean, I kind of feel a little bad for him, but that could have been why he turned out to be so paranoid. He turned out to be super paranoid, especially about witches. And he wrote a book called Demonology, where he outlined supposedly the practice of witches, but we're not going to get into that now. We're going to get into another conversation. Let's continue with what happened. What happened? Okay, let's go deeper, because what a tangled web we weave. We weave. What a tangled web we weave. Here we go. All right. Now, well, unfortunately, Queen Elizabeth, realizing that Queen Mary, now this is very interesting. How did Queen Elizabeth find out that Queen Mary had approved a plot for her assassination? Because Queen Elizabeth had cut off all letters to Queen Mary, because they could just, the correspondence was not good. Because, see, Queen Elizabeth had spies intercepting the correspondence. And they could tell that the tone of it was that they would always have to be on their P's and Q's, because these Scottish people would come and they would free this woman. And then they'd probably show up in the castle and try to off Queen Elizabeth. So Queen Elizabeth, like I said, had to keep moving her around. Queen Elizabeth always kept her under heavy guard. And then as they continued to read the correspondence, because, she gave letters, but after a while they were like, we can't even let this woman correspond with people on the outside, because her people will come dashing in here and grab her, and it's going to be a problem. Well, sure enough, because the correspondence was cut off, Queen Mary's people found a way to still get letters to her through beer barrels of beer, sneaking up in. I tell you, this is covert ops. Man, the CIA wasn't even this advanced. These people had CIA. I mean, they had covert ops. They are writing letters to her, and they're hiding the letters in the beer barrel to sneak the letter in. And they had a cipher. So they weren't just writing the letters free and clear, just in case they got intercepted. They would write a letter, and it was in cipher, it was in code. And Queen Elizabeth, her spy master, deciphered, right? You know how that's a word, decipher. Deciphered. He could take apart the script and read what they said. And one of them said, one of these letters in the Babington Plot, it was a letter. They now call it the Babington Plot. From Lord Babington, we have now mapped out a way that we're going to assassinate Queen Elizabeth, and we're going to get you on the throne. And then she wrote back in cipher, not regular English, right? That would be horrible. And it would be easily seen. She returned the letter stating that she gave her approval and that soon she would be out of her imprisonment, because she wanted her freedom. Soon things would change for her. And when they got that letter, there they had the proof that she had approved the assassination plot to kill Queen Elizabeth. Queen Elizabeth was like, well, I got you first, and your head's got to roll. On February 8th, 1587, Queen Mary of Scots was beheaded. Off with your head. They love to do that. They said it took 3 hacks to get her head off. And because she was a Catholic, she died with red undergarments. And back in those days, red undergarments denoted a martyr, that you were dying a martyr's death. This woman wasn't dying no martyr's death. This one, all of a sudden, you're thinking about God now. You're about to die. That's what they do. They think about God when they're about to die. And so she was there and she had her Bible and she had her, her red undergarments. And they say that before they chopped her head, she took her dress off to reveal her red undergarments. And her red undergarments, this was a way of saying that I'm true to the Catholic faith to my death. You weren't being killed for being a Catholic. You was being killed for trying to off the queen. You were being killed for treason and treachery and an assassination plot. This ain't nothing to do with being Catholic. This has nothing to do with religion. Do you see how people conflate it? They conflate it to be, oh, I'm a martyr. No, you're not. You're a would-be assassin, but you got discovered first. And so you're just paying for your plot. Well, her son never came to her aid. Now, her son did not kill her. Queen Elizabeth ordered the axemen to kill her. They hacked 3 times, like I said, at her before her head came off. And then he held the head off, but then they said the head fell because there was a wig on the head. This is really gross. This is so gross. Can you imagine? But people back then, they were very inhumane because they would just be chopping people's heads and the blood would go everywhere. And people would be standing in the town square watching, like, oh my God. And they talk about movies nowadays. People standing in the town square with your kids and your baby. Oh, we're going to watch a public execution today. What? Okay. Anywho, he never raised an army. He never did anything to come get his mother those 19 years. Other people were working. You see, other people were trying to help his mother. He wasn't. But remember, he wasn't with the Catholic plan. He wanted everything to stay Protestant. They weren't with the Pope. Him or his cousin, Queen Elizabeth, they weren't with the Pope. Now, instead of he being on his mother's side, he was on Queen Elizabeth's side. Why? Because he's like, Queen Elizabeth don't have no children. And when she died, I'm going to get the throne. Can you understand this? Queen Elizabeth didn't have any children. She was the Virgin Queen. That's what they called her, the Virgin Queen. And since she was a Virgin Queen, I don't know if she actually never had sex. I don't know. But they call her the Virgin Queen. And she says she will never take a husband because she's married to her country. Oh, and people just love that. Oh my goodness, they just ate it up. This woman was, she was another mogul, another badass. This woman she reigned for 40 something years. Now, her sister, who reigned before her, was a Catholic, and she was trying to get everything back to Catholicism because their father had broke with the Catholic Church. But Queen Mary was trying to get the whole country back to Catholicism. Do you know why they call her Bloody Mary? They call her Bloody Mary because she burned, I think it was thousands of people. Could be hundreds or it could be thousands. Bloody Mary reigned for 5 years, killing all the Protestant people. Not all of them, because many of them continue to live. Killed many of them. Killed many Protestant people who did not want to be down with the Catholic Church anymore, people who had a different thought, people who were going with Martin Luther and felt like you should be able to read the Bible in English. Do you know the Catholic Church, it was illegal to own the Bible in English? It was illegal for a priest to read to the congregation in English. They had to read in Latin so the people would not know what they were saying. The people didn't know Latin. Isn't that interesting? You would never know what they're saying to you there because they're speaking to you in Latin. They still do it to this day in some churches in the Catholic Church. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm saying, do you want to know what someone's saying or do you not? It's real easy to keep controlling people when you don't know what they're saying. I don't know. Is it good? I don't know. It's in Latin. We don't speak it. What? You couldn't even have a Bible in English. It was against the law. Okay, so King James thought it's better for me to be friends with Queen Elizabeth because she don't have any kids. And, his advisors, they're kind of mapping out this chess game. He's going to get the Iron Throne. King of England. He's going to get the throne when Queen Elizabeth dies. because she doesn't have any children. She never named an heir. She never named an heir. However, there was some kind of, plots to say, okay, when she dies, I don't think they were trying to off her because they loved her. I think they loved her. She's a well loved queen. Yeah, I don't think everybody loved her. Yet, he became king when she died. So Queen Elizabeth, she never named an heir. She never said, even on her deathbed, they were like, who's going to be the next monarch? She never said. So it was easy to go ahead and make James the next king. Can you understand the psychology of this man now? Why would he become the king? Here's what you want to know. He became the king. Let me show you a little. I pulled up for you a family tree so you could understand why this is like this. Okay, you see the Tudors, and I promise you, none of these people would be important to us if King James hadn't came up with the Bible. We wouldn't even be talking about these people right now. We would be having another conversation. I wouldn't be talking about these people. These people don't mean anything in my life. I don't know if they mean anything in your life. These people are inconsequential to me. There's a bunch of monarchs fighting over an iron throne. I don't care about that. What is it doing for my life right now? The only reason that we are having conversation about this family, this Tudor dynasty and the Stuart families and the Dauphine over in France and all that is because they had something to do with the Bible, and their religious beliefs and their actions still affect people to this day. To this day, still affect people. Do you understand that George Washington, the first president of these United States of America, had his hand on a King James Version Bible that was held at a Masonic house in Washington, D.C., and they still have that Bible, the King James Version of the Bible. I think it's the same Bible that George Bush put his hands on. A few different presidents have put their hand on that King James Version of the Bible. Do you know how highly regarded this thing is? People hold this thing up there with God. From a bunch of warring Game of Thrones lookalikes. I don't think any of these people are any better than you and I. They all look like regular people to me. They all look like regular people with regular issues, getting sick, dying, having jealousies, being involved in plots, doing things they had no business doing. Some of them were probably good people. Some of them were probably not so good people. They're people. I want to know what any of this has to do with God. I'll wait. I thought not. I didn't hear an answer. What does this have to do with God? Nothing. Nothing. Okay, so let's talk about this Tudor. Where did King James come in? This is where he came in. King Henry, this one right here, King Henry VIII, and you see that he had 6 wives. Here goes his first wife. His first wife, Catherine of Aragon, she was the mother of Queen Mary. This is the one they call Bloody Mary. You see, she got red on. This is Bloody Mary right here. And you, whenever you go and get a drink with the tomato and whatever else they put in that drink, that is named for her. Every time you get a drink in the bar, every time you get a Bloody Mary, you are speaking this queen's name right here. That's Bloody Mary right there. Because she killed all those Protestant people, thousands of them, burned them at the stake because she was a Catholic. She loved the Pope. Nothing wrong with loving the Pope. I wonder about killing thousands of people, though, because you love the Pope. Okay. Her sister, actually her half sister, because this is King Henry. Here's his first wife, Catherine of Aragon. She was Catholic. Here's his next wife, Anne Boleyn. Anne Boleyn had one child, Elizabeth. Queen Elizabeth I, she was queen for 40 something years. Her father would have been proud. He was in the realm of the ancestors. The third wife, Jane Seymour. Jane Seymour had finally, King Henry had his beloved son. He was waiting for a son, waiting for a son, waiting for a son, couldn't wait till he got a son. Anne Boleyn never gave him a son. He was so upset about that. He was so mad about that. He wanted to divorce this one and marry this one. It was a big to-do. This actually what caused the break. These 3 people right here, this is what caused the break from the Catholic Church. Henry was married to Catherine of Aragon. She never gave him a son. She only had a daughter. And he fell in love with this one over here, Anne Boleyn. And he wanted to marry Anne Boleyn because they say Anne Boleyn wouldn't have sex with him until he got rid of her. And he didn't want, at first he didn't want to get rid of her because he was married to her because her husband had died, which was his oldest brother. It was like a brother-in-law marriage. So he kind of fell into marrying her. He didn't pick her. He married her because his brother died, and then he kind of married her. It was the right thing to do. But they only had one daughter. And he wanted a son, he wanted a son, and wanted a son, wanted a son, wanted a son. Anne Boleyn is like, I'm gonna give you a son, I'm gonna give you a son. Get rid of her. Get rid of this wife. Do you see how conniving these people are? Get rid of her and be with me. But he was like, okay, but let's get together. She's like, no, not until you get rid of her. So he goes, they were still under the Pope at that point. He goes and gets his lawyers. He lawyers up and says, how can we get rid of her? How can I get a divorce from her? Because you couldn't get a divorce unless the Pope approved. Couldn't do anything unless the Pope approved, because the Pope was over all of these monarchs. And so King Henry, he kept trying to see how he could get a divorce from Catherine of Aragon. He couldn't. This was a Spanish queen. She was from Spain, and he was in England. He couldn't get a divorce from her, couldn't get a divorce. The Pope would not give him a divorce. No, because see, she was Catholic and they were on her side. The Pope was like, oh no, that's your wife. You better honor her, do right by her. So he couldn't get a divorce, so he could get with this one. So eventually, this is so twisted, I promise you. So eventually, one of his advisors, Thomas Cromwell, comes up with the idea. Well, hey, let's just make you ruler, the divine ruler of England. Let's just make you the divine ruler. Forget about the Pope. So they get rid of the Pope. Oh, that was a big problem. Thomas Cromwell, it was a big problem. It was a big problem. In England, it was a big problem. Catholics and Protestants, once again, fighting, right? And then finally, he got the divorce from her. He goes and marries her, but for all his treachery, once he marries her, she has a child, she has a baby, but the baby is a girl. And so they take her off. So this one is getting trained in, all the languages, all the things, the courtly things. This one is now getting trained in all the courtly things and everything. And after a while, they want to get rid of Anne Boleyn because she is also Protestant, but she doesn't like that Thomas Cromwell, who is King Henry's advisor, she doesn't like that he's going around getting rid of all of these monasteries and all throughout the countryside. And he's finding that they have all of this, people are paying them tremendous amounts of money for indulgences and things like that. They're making all this money and they got tons of gold and whatnot. So Thomas Cromwell says to Henry, I'm going to make you the richest man ever. But Anne Boleyn is like, when you take that money from the monastery, you really should be giving it to poor people. And she was trying to needle him and he didn't like it. He was like, well, I'm going to get rid of her. So they devised a plot. And after a while, she never had a boy. So Henry was like, and then they played on that and said, oh, she's cheating on you with 5 dudes. Yeah, they made up a story about her, that she was cheating with 5 dudes. And one of them supposedly was her brother. So she had a kid, and that was Queen Elizabeth. Well, she got ultimate revenge on Henry because her child, Queen Elizabeth, rules for 44, 45 years. Then but Henry chopped her head once they all, said she was cheating on him with 5 men. Well, and he was happy to get rid of her by that time because he was no longer in love with her, because Henry used to fall in and out of love with women like you change underwear. Well, when he got rid of this wife, then he got this wife, Jane Seymour. Now, he really liked Jane Seymour, but the problem was when Jane Seymour got pregnant, she gave him a son. Oh, he was so happy. Oh my goodness, he was happy, 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 happy. But, and the bells were ringing all through England. The son has been born. You know how they would ring the bells, bonfires going off because it's a boy. Ooh, Edward has been born. But then tragedy struck because Jane died. She died in childbirth. Not really in childbirth. Shortly after she gave birth to the baby, it was a long, hard labor, and then, it wasn't clean and all of that. She got some kind of infection. She died. So now the man is heartbroken because he loved this one. That was his 3rd wife. Okay. Then he gets Anne of Cleves, Catherine Parr. He chops another one of his wife's heads too. But I just want to give you that background because King Henry was the one who made it so that the church the schism came in. He caused the schism. Okay, so then his daughter, Mary, she was Catholic, just like her mother. These two very close. But Mary only reigned for 5 years. Then she died. Then, oh, but before Mary reigned, Edward reigned because he was going to be the first in line for the kingdom, but he died. Yeah, he died young. He was like 16, 17, something like that. He was very young when he died. He was very young when he took the throne. Oh, it shows you here how old he was. 1537 to 1553. This boy didn't even make it to 20 years old. And he reigned from 1547 to 1553 when he died. So he started reigning when he was 10 years old because his father died. See, his father died at 1547. And so 1547, he became king, but he, died shortly after that, just a few years later. And then from 1553. And then his sister, Mary, she was next in line. She reigned only for 5 years. But then when you look at Queen Elizabeth, she reigned for 44, 45 years. Now, so how did James, here goes King James down here. How did King James come to rule England when Queen Elizabeth died? Because King James was related to Henry the Seventh. His Henry the Seventh's child was Margaret Tudor, and Margaret Tudor was the mother of James the Fifth of Scotland. And you see that James the Fifth of Scotland and Mary of Guise had Queen Mary of Scots, and Queen Mary of Scots and Lord Darnley had King James. This one is going to change the world with the Bible. This one right here. This one right here. I promise you, I would not be talking about any of these people. They are of no consequence to me whatsoever. I would not be talking about any of them had it not been for the Bible. The Bible, the Bible. It was the ultimate power move. It was the ultimate power move. So if you are a member on the YouTube channel, on the Valerie Love YouTube channel, the Christian Witches YouTube channel, you have a current copy of the ebook, The Real God Is Not in the Bible. If you are not a current member of either one of the YouTube channels, do join. If you join the YouTube channel, you immediately get access to the ebook version of the book as it is currently. But if you're not a member, it's all good. You can pick up the book here at valerielove.com/books. Now, I want y'all to tell me in the comments, what are your thoughts about this? So, he didn't kill his mother. It's true. He did not kill his mother. Yet, what are your thoughts after hearing about the wars and civil unrest and Catholics fighting Protestants and the world he grew up in and what shaped his worldview? And his father got killed and his mother got a head chopped and all of the politics and all of that. All of that went into the man, the shaping of the man who would eventually say, I'm going to commission a Bible. The ultimate power move, the act of political power grab that would influence people for hundreds of years. He commissioned that Bible in the 1600s. In the early 1600s, King James commissioned that Bible. Hundreds of years later, that Bible is still held in high regard, even though it is a deficient Bible, even though it is not a good version of the Bible. Can you imagine? it's a story. Family, it's a great big story. It's an incredible story of political intrigue. It's an incredible story of a power grab. It's an incredible story. It just has nothing to do with God. And if we think that's God, if we think that's sanctioned, if we think that's holy, then we get to have a new idea about the infinite source of love and goodness and compassion. I visited many of the prisons where Protestants were held just to experience what James and his book did to people. Ooh, isn't that interesting? Oh my goodness, Aurora Day. Wow. Dude was seriously messed up and traumatized to the point of insanity. Absolutely. He became so obsessed with witches. They say this man was paranoid. This man was so paranoid that the witches were going to get him, that he wanted everyone who was even suspected of being a witch burned. Now, the witch trials were already starting up in Europe. He took it Mach 10 hair on fire. He took it through the roof. He took it through the roof. The takeaway, the Bible most certainly did not come from God. Oh my goodness. That's it. That's the answer. Ding, 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 ding. That is the answer. Queen V. Oh, are you dumb? It's a play. Absolutely. Queen V. It's sort of similar to Constantine. Absolutely. And can we see, family, over the years, because we've done so much deep research, we're scholars, we're researchers, we're seekers of truth, right? We're occultists, and occultist just means hidden. What is hidden, we're going to uncover it. Most people don't know anything about King James, where he came from, what his life was like. Nobody knows about his family. They just regard this man as like the be all end all. Why? I don't. I don't. I don't view him as the be all end all. He had a lot of baggage. Absolutely. And wouldn't you be traumatized too if you had a family like that? Oh my Lord. I'd be traumatized too if I had that kind of family. I'm going with Diddy comes from this. This is Diddy's bloodline. Aurora Day, that's a good one. Oh my goodness. It really is really scary. That Christian death cult has nothing to do with love. Nothing to do with love. Okay, Queen V. Constantine manipulating what books constitute the Bible for political control. Absolutely. And Constantine, and really for many years, they massaged and worked on the books of the Bible. And it wasn't really solidified until just a few hundred years ago. What books you could read and what books you could not read. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine people telling you what books you can and cannot read? That's it for tonight. Thank you so much for joining me in The Real God Is Not in the Bible. If you have the book, please leave a review. Thank you for all of you who have left reviews. Thank you that this book remains on the bestseller list on Amazon. I love that. It's on 2 bestseller lists currently on Amazon. I absolutely love that. Pick up the book. Please leave a review. Would you? Would you do that for me, please? Please leave a review. Please, please, pretty please. Reviews is so important. It helps authors so much. And it also helps authors so much when you buy the book directly from the author as well. That's always good when you know authors that you love, that take time to write and study and share with the world. I love you. I'll see you next Wednesday. Peace.